Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. It started like any other quiet Saturday morning. The kind where the world outside still yawns and stretches, and you're curled up on the couch with your favorite blanket, sipping coffee, thinking nothing extraordinary will happen. That's how my day began. Ordinary. But let me tell you, by sunset, everything had changed. And it all started with something my husband said. He looked at me across the kitchen table, a strange glint in his eye, half mischief, half mystery. "I've planned something romantic," he said, smiling in that boyish way he always does when he's up to something. Now, don't get me wrong, after 5 years of marriage, I thought I'd seen every shade of romance he had to offer. Flowers. Candlelit dinners. Silly handwritten notes tucked under my pillow. Sweet, simple things. Comforting things. But that day, there was something different in his tone, something unexpected. There's a kind of pause in a woman's heart when the familiar turns unfamiliar, especially when it comes from the man she thought she knew like the back of her hand. I smiled back, a little unsure. "What kind of romantic?" I asked, my voice playful, though I was already on edge. He didn't answer. He just winked, told me to dress casually, and said we'd be leaving in an hour. Now here's where things started to feel off. He wouldn't tell me where we were going. He wouldn't say what we were doing. Just trust me. And maybe that's where the real story begins, not with what he did, but with the choice I made to follow him blindly, hoping that love still meant safety. As we drove further out of town, down roads I didn't recognize, my thoughts were all over the place. Was it a surprise getaway? A memory from our early days? Or was it something deeper, something I wasn't prepared to face? Every mile we drove, I kept turning over moments in my mind, wondering if I'd missed some sign, some clue that might explain this sudden turn. He held my hand the whole time. And even though that small gesture should have calmed me, it only deepened the suspense. Because sometimes, the scariest part of a story isn't the twist itself, it's the silence before it. And just when I thought we were heading nowhere, he pulled into a place I'd never seen before. An old cabin, tucked away in the woods, barely visible through the trees. He turned off the engine, turned to me, and whispered, "This is where I want to start over." What did he mean? Start over from what? Was it a fresh chapter? Or the beginning of an end? Before I tell you what happened next, I want to know, what would you do if your partner took you somewhere unplanned, saying only they had a romantic surprise? Would you trust them? Or would your heart start whispering doubts like mine did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And answer this poll: surprise or suspicion, which would you feel first? Because what happened next? Well, let's just say, I wasn't expecting that. The cabin looked like it had stories of its own: weathered wood, ivy curling up the sides like forgotten memories, and windows clouded over like old eyes holding secrets. I hesitated before stepping out of the car, the crunch of gravel under my feet sounding too loud in the quiet woods. My husband, Adam, smiled at me gently, but I noticed how his eyes didn't quite match the curve of his lips. Something was off. Not in a scary way, at least, not yet. But in a way that made my stomach flutter with unease. "This place," I whispered, "we've never been here before, have we?" He shook his head, still smiling. "No. But I have." That answer struck me oddly. I tilted my head, searching his face. "When?" "A long time ago," he said, as he took my hand and led me toward the porch. "Before you. Before us." And just like that, 100 questions sprang to life in my head. What was this place to him? A childhood memory? A place he came to escape? Or maybe, something he never wanted me to know until now? He opened the creaky door, and I half expected dust to rush out like breath being held too long. But instead, the cabin was clean. Lived in, even. There were fresh sheets on the bed. A fire already crackling in the hearth. That's when the unease deepened. He had prepared this. Thought it through. Planned it, down to the last detail. And yet, he hadn't said a word until today. As we walked inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that this trip wasn't just about romance. There was something he needed to tell me. Maybe something he was afraid to share at home. Maybe something he thought would sound softer, easier to understand. Our nights lying in bed, scrolling silently on our phones, the way most couples do. But looking at him now, how his hands trembled just slightly when he lit a second fire, how he kept checking his watch like he was waiting for something, it felt like I was standing in front of a stranger. Still, I didn't ask. I waited. Maybe out of fear. Maybe out of love. What would you have done? Comment below, should I have pressed him right then, or waited to see what he'd reveal? And trust me, you'll want to stay for what happened that night, because the truth he finally told me, it wasn't romantic at all. Night fell fast out there in the woods, like a heavy curtain drawn suddenly over the stage. The trees outside creaked in the breeze, and the only light in the cabin came from the fire and a single dim lamp near the sofa. I sat there, knees pulled to my chest, watching Adam move around the room like he was stalling, pouring tea, straightening picture frames that didn't need straightening, checking his phone even though there was no signal. The silence between us wasn't comfortable anymore. It was thick. It pressed on my chest like a weight, growing heavier with every second he didn't speak. Finally, I asked, Adam, why are we really here? He didn't look at me. Just sat down slowly across from me, the fire flickering between us like it was listening too. He opened his mouth like he was going to explain, then closed it again. That hurt more than I thought it would. I needed time to think, he said at last. To think about what? I whispered. He hesitated. Us. There it was. The crack in the floorboards. The thing I didn't want to hear but couldn't stop myself from stepping into. My heart started racing, my thoughts running wild. Did he want a break? Was he hiding something? Someone? My stomach turned cold, and I almost couldn't look at him. But then he said something that twisted everything even more. Do you remember the trip we cancelled last year? The one to Colorado? I blinked. Yeah, why? That trip was supposed to be our restart, he said. I had planned to tell you something important then. But we never went. Life got busy. We let it slide. But the thing I needed to say, it didn't go away. The room seemed to shrink. The fire crackled louder. The shadows on the wall grew longer. What is it, Adam? I asked again, this time firmer. He looked at me for a long time. His eyes were glassy, like someone standing on the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump or not. Then he said, there's something I did. A long time ago. Before I met you. But it's never left me. And now it's catching up. That's when everything changed. The loving husband. The gentle surprise. The so-called romantic getaway. It all felt like a cover for something darker. I didn't know what to think. Was he in trouble? Was I in trouble? Had I been married to a man who was living a double life all along? I wanted to ask more. I wanted to scream. But all I could do was sit there, frozen, feeling like I had stepped into someone else's life. And then, he reached for that notebook. The same one with the photo tucked inside. He held it like it held all the answers, but still didn't open it. What's in there, Adam? I asked quietly. He looked at me. And said, this is where it all started. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think Adam is hiding? Is it something from his past that could ruin everything? Drop your theories in the comments, I'm reading every one. And don't go anywhere. The next part is where the truth finally begins to unravel. Adam held that notebook like it was something sacred, or something cursed. The firelight danced across his face, throwing shadows over his expression, making it harder to read. He looked like a man torn between two worlds, one he lived in with me, and one he had buried deep in the past. "I never thought I'd have to open this again," he said, barely above a whisper. My hands felt cold, even with the fire so close. Every part of me wanted to grab that notebook and read it myself, but something held me back. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the understanding that once the truth was out, there'd be no going back. He set it down between us and looked at me with a kind of sadness I hadn't seen before. "Before you, I was someone else. I lived differently. Thought differently. I made choices." He stopped, rubbed his forehead. "I thought I could outrun them." "What kind of choices?" I asked, my voice thin. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into the notebook and pulled out the photo. He didn't show it to me, just stared at it like it was staring back at him. I caught a glimpse. It was old, slightly torn at the edges. Two people in the picture, one was definitely Adam, younger, different. The other, I couldn't tell. "She's the reason we're here," he said suddenly. "I thought it would feel right to be back in this place. But it doesn't. It just reminds me how far this thing has followed me." My chest tightened. "Who is she?" He looked up. His eyes shimmered in the firelight. "She was someone I loved. Once. And I let her down in the worst way." That was when the air in the cabin turned heavy. Something unspoken was sitting in the space between us now, something that felt like it could crack the walls if we weren't careful. "I never hurt her," he said quickly, almost too quickly. "But I hurt her heart. I made a promise I didn't keep. And when things fell apart, she disappeared. No one saw her again." My blood ran cold. "You mean she's missing?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "And people think you had something to do with it." Adam didn't answer. That silence said more than words ever could. I stood up, backing away without even realizing it. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why here?" He looked up at me, broken. "Because yesterday, I got a message. A photo. From a number I don't know. And it was her. Standing right here, outside this cabin. I felt like the floor was about to give way beneath me." "Wait, what?" He nodded. "Someone else knows. Someone's watching. And they wanted me to come back." That's when a sound echoed outside. A soft crunch. Like footsteps. In the dark. I froze. And that's where I'll stop for now. Who do you think is outside the cabin? Is it her? Or someone else entirely? Leave your guesses in the comments and don't miss what happens next. Because the truth waiting on the other side of that door might change everything. We both stood frozen, Adam clutching the photo, me holding my breath. The sound came again. Soft. Deliberate. Footsteps crunching just beyond the porch, too light to be an animal, too steady to be the wind. I looked at him, my eyes wide with silent questions, but he didn't move. He just stared at the door like he already knew who or what was on the other side. "Did you tell anyone we were coming here?" I whispered. He shook his head. "Only you." "Then why did someone else know?" The doorknob rattled just once and my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I took a step back, instinct kicking in, but Adam held up a hand. "Wait," he said. "Just wait." He moved slowly to the door, each footstep creaking against the old floorboards. I stayed behind him, close to the wall, eyes darting around for something, anything that could protect us if this wasn't someone friendly. The suspense was unbearable. The kind that coils in your gut and refuses to let go. Adam opened the door. But no one was there. Only the stillness of the forest, the darkness pressing in, and something on the wooden porch, an envelope. He bent down, picked it up with trembling hands, and brought it inside. I watched him tear it open, expecting another photo, another memory from his mysterious past. But what he pulled out wasn't a photo. It was a letter. And it was addressed to me. I stepped forward, the air around me turning cold. Why would they write to me? I asked, taking the note from him with hesitant fingers. As I unfolded it, the first line sent a chill straight down my spine. Does he still lie to you, too? The handwriting was sharp, rushed, but full of emotion. And whoever wrote it knew who I was. Knew I was here. Knew everything wasn't as it seemed. The letter went on, talking about betrayal, about broken promises, about a love that turned into something else. There were no names. No specific dates. But every line felt like it was pulling me deeper into a story I didn't agree to be part of. It ended with one sentence, bold and final: "You deserve to know what he took from me." I stared at Adam, trying to make sense of what I'd just read. "What did you take from her?" I asked. "What is she talking about?" He didn't answer right away. Just sank onto the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. "Adam," I pressed. "What is she accusing you of?" He looked up, eyes bloodshot. "It wasn't just a broken heart," he said slowly. "It was something more. Something that changed everything." Before I could say anything else, his phone lit up on the table. Another message. No number. No name. Just one line. "You shouldn't have come back. What would you do if you were me? Walk away now or stay to uncover the truth, no matter the cost? Tell me in the comments. I need to know, because things are about to spiral even further." The room felt like it was holding its breath. Adam stared at the glowing message on his phone, the light from the screen casting an eerie glow on his face. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. We weren't alone. Someone was out there, watching us, maybe closer than we thought. I didn't wait this time. "Adam, enough. I need the truth. Now." He looked up, exhausted, like he'd been carrying this weight for far too long. Slowly, he stood and walked to the fireplace, staring into the flames like they held the answers. "She wasn't just someone I loved," he said. "She was pregnant." That sentence hit me like a slap. "She told me after we broke up," he continued, voice trembling. "I didn't believe her. Thought it was a way to pull me back. I ignored her. Shut her out. I was young. I was stupid. And then she disappeared." The room spun around me. "You thought she made it up?" He nodded, guilt pouring from his eyes. "But what if she didn't? What if I turned my back when she needed me most? And now? Someone's trying to make sure I pay for it." A knock broke through the moment like shattered glass. We both turned, eyes locked on the door. Another knock. Not frantic. Calm. Like whoever was outside wasn't in a rush, because they knew they already had our full attention. Adam moved toward the door, but I stopped him. "Let me," I whispered. I opened it. And there, standing on the porch, was a young woman, maybe 19, 20 at most. She looked just like the photo Adam had hidden in the notebook, but younger. A softer version. Her hair curled in the same way. Her eyes held the same storm. "I think I'm your daughter," she said. I forgot how to breathe. She stepped forward, hands shaking, but her voice was steady. "My mom disappeared when I was little. I grew up in foster care. A few months ago, I found an old box with letters, yours. I traced the address. Then the cabin photos. I wanted to know why you left her. Why she was never found." Adam sank to his knees. His hands covered his face. "I didn't know. I didn't know, but the girl Emma, she told us, didn't cry. She just stood there, strong and still. I'm not here for revenge. I just want answers." That was the moment everything cracked open. The weight Adam had carried. The pain she had lived with. The silence that had haunted us all. For the first time, something like truth began to fill the room. But just when I thought it was over, her eyes darkened. "There's one more thing," she said. "My mom might still be alive." That's where it ends, for now. What do you think happened to her mother? Is she still out there? Watching? Waiting? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't miss the next part, because the real story might be just beginning. Emma's words hung in the air like a storm cloud refusing to pass. My mom might still be alive. That changed everything. The past wasn't just history, it was still breathing, still moving, still waiting to be uncovered. We didn't sleep that night. We sat at the kitchen table, me, Adam, and Emma, piecing together the timeline, the letters she found, the scattered stories from people who knew her mother. One neighbor remembered seeing a woman who matched her description a few years ago, living under a different name in a nearby town. Another claimed she worked at a roadside diner and just vanished one day. No police report. No trace. Adam was torn open, raw and honest in a way I hadn't seen before. He admitted every mistake. Not just to Emma, but to himself. He apologized, not the easy kind, but the deep, soul-level kind. And Emma listened, not with anger, but with a quiet ache. She wasn't there for revenge. She just wanted to know where she came from, and why silence had shaped her life more than love ever had. The next day, we drove together to that small town. It was quiet, tucked between mountains and pine trees, the kind of place that feels like it's hiding secrets. We asked questions, showed old photos. Most people shook their heads. One woman paused. "That face," she whispered, pointing at the picture. "I haven't seen her in a long time. But she used to sit in that booth right there. Every Thursday. Always alone. It wasn't much. But it was something. We didn't find her. Not yet. But the story didn't end with finding or losing. It ended with truth. With a family beginning to form out of something broken. With Emma getting the answers she deserved and Adam finally facing the shadow he'd carried for too long. That night, back at the cabin, Emma smiled for the first time. Just a little. She looked around and said, "Maybe we can come back here sometime. Make new memories." I reached for Adam's hand. He squeezed mine. Sometimes, healing doesn't come all at once. Sometimes, it starts in the quiet moments. Around a table. In an old photo. In a single brave knock at the door. And maybe, in a story like this. Now it's your turn. How do you feel about the ending? Should we continue this story and follow Emma's journey? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you felt something while watching, hope, heartbreak, or even healing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a story that touches the heart.